People think humiliation is loud. They imagine screaming fights, broken plates, slammed doors, dramatic ultimatums, but my wife's humiliation was quiet, precise, calculated. Invisible to everyone except me, she never raised her voice, never called me names in public, never left bruises on my skin. She just made me feel smaller every day, like I was slowly disappearing in my own home. She mocked my job. She dismissed my opinions. She laughed at my dreams like they were childish fantasies. When I tried to talk, she rolled her eyes. When I shared an idea, she smirked. When I needed support, she scrolled through her phone like I wasn't even there. And the worst part, she did it with a soft smile. In public, she was perfect. The ideal wife. Beautiful, charming, supportive. Friends envied me. Family praised her. Strangers thought I was the luckiest man alive, but behind closed doors, she was different. Cold, detached, quietly cruel in ways that left no marks but carved deep scars into my mind. "Why can't you be more like other men?" she'd say casually. "You're too sensitive. You're embarrassing sometimes." At first, I believed her. Maybe I really wasn't enough. Maybe I deserved to feel small. Then one night, I overheard her laughing on the phone. "She's lucky I stay with him," she told her friend. "He's nothing without me." Something inside me broke, not in anger, not in rage, but in clarity. I realized she didn't just disrespect me, she enjoyed it. So I stopped reacting, stopped arguing, stopped trying to prove my worth. Instead, I started planning. Because humiliation is a game of power, and power can always be taken back, quietly, strategically, and permanently. She thought I was weak. She thought I would never leave, never fight back, never change. She was wrong. And when she finally realized what I had done, it was already too late. When people saw us together, they thought we were the perfect couple. A power couple. A modern love story. They didn't see the cracks. They didn't see the quiet damage. I met Sarah 5 years ago at a company seminar. She was confident, sharp, and intimidating in the best way. While everyone else was nervously exchanging business cards, she walked into the room like she owned it, laughing loudly, shaking hands, commanding attention without effort. I was the opposite, quiet, analytical, observant. I preferred listening over talking, thinking over reacting. She liked that about me, or at least that's what she said. "You're different," she told me during our first coffee. "You're not trying so hard." I didn't realize back then that different would later become her favorite insult. We started dating quickly. Sarah loved intensity, big plans, bold promises, fast decisions. I loved stability. Somehow we balanced each other. She pushed me out of my comfort zone. I grounded her impulsiveness. At least that's how it felt in the beginning. She was affectionate, supportive, and unexpectedly vulnerable. She talked about her childhood, her fear of being alone, her need to feel in control. I opened up about my insecurities, my fear of conflict, and how I often avoided confrontation. She said she admired my calm nature. I told her I admired her strength. We moved in together after a year. It felt natural. She decorated the apartment with bold colors and modern furniture. I handled the finances, planning, and logistics. We joked that she was the visionary and I was the engineer of our life. But the first red flags were small, so small I ignored them. She corrected me in public. She laughed at my opinions during group conversations. She compared me to other men, her boss, her ex, random strangers she admired. At first, I brushed it off as sarcasm. She had a sharp sense of humor. Everyone laughed, including me. But over time, the jokes stopped feeling funny. "You're too passive. You let people walk all over you. Why can't you be more ambitious?" Whenever I tried to express how those comments hurt, she twisted it. "You're overreacting. I'm just being honest, don't be so emotional." So I stopped talking about it. When we got married, I thought things would change. I believed commitment would soften her, make her more considerate. Instead, it amplified everything. At home, her tone shifted. She criticized how I dressed, how I spoke, how I spent money. She mocked my hobbies, calling them childish and unproductive. She interrupted me mid-sentence, finished my thoughts for me, or dismissed my ideas with a flick of her hand. And yet, in public, she was perfect. She held my hand at parties. She praised me to friends. She posted loving captions on social media. People told me how lucky I was to have such a strong, successful wife. I smiled and agreed. I didn't tell them how small I felt when she sighed in disappointment at my achievements. How she rolled her eyes when I tried to share dreams. How she laughed when I suggested starting a side business. "You're not built for leadership," she said once. "You're more of a background person." That sentence stayed with me longer than I'd admit. I started questioning myself. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was mediocre. Maybe I needed her to guide me. Slowly, I stopped making decisions. I stopped sharing ideas. I stopped standing up for myself. It was easier to stay quiet than to argue, and she noticed. She took control of everything: finances, plans, social circles, even which friends we saw. She corrected me in front of others, laughing as if it were playful teasing. People laughed along, not realizing how deeply it cut. The humiliation wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, constant, like water dripping on stone. Then one day I overheard her talking to her sister on the phone. "He's sweet, but he's so ordinary," she said. "If I didn't push him, he'd be nothing. He'd just stay stuck." I stood outside the door, frozen. She thought she was motivating me, but I realized something else. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a project, something to control, something to shape, something inferior. That was the moment I started to wake up. I began noticing patterns. How she raised her voice only when we were alone. How she smiled when others praised her for putting up with me. How she subtly put me down while making herself look superior. I wasn't a husband to her. I was a mirror she used to feel powerful. And slowly, painfully, I understood that love wasn't supposed to feel like this. But I stayed. Because leaving felt harder than enduring. Because I still hoped she'd change. Because I still believed the woman I fell in love with was still in there somewhere. I didn't know yet that her daily humiliation wasn't accidental. It was intentional. And it was about to push me toward a decision that would change both our lives forever. I always thought emotional abuse was loud. Screaming, throwing things, public meltdowns. I was wrong. The most dangerous damage happens quietly, behind closed doors, disguised as jokes, honesty, and love. Sarah's behavior escalated slowly, like a storm that creeps over the horizon, silent until you're already drowning. It started with control. She joked about checking my phone, asking who I was texting, why I liked certain posts, why I didn't reply fast enough. If I went out with friends, she flooded me with messages, interrogations masked as concern. "You're married now," she said once, voice casual. "You don't need all that independence." Then came the comparisons. Other men, coworkers, influencers online, even strangers at restaurants. "Look at him, that's ambition. Why can't you be that confident?" My ex at least knew how to take charge. Each comment was a small cut. Individually, I brushed them off. Together, they became unbearable. The humiliation became public. At dinners with friends, she mocked my job, exaggerated my mistakes, laughed at my attempts to defend myself. "He'd forget his own head if I didn't remind him," she joked once, and everyone laughed. I laughed too, but inside something cracked. The breaking point came on a random Thursday night. I came home early and overheard her on a video call with her friends. She didn't notice me standing in the hallway. "He's nice, but honestly boring," she said, swirling her wine. "He's like a safe backup plan." "I could have done way better," her friends laughed. "Do you even love him?" one asked. She shrugged. "I love the lifestyle, and he's easy to control. That's enough." The words hit harder than any slap ever could. I stepped into the room. She froze. Her friends went silent, awkward smiles fading. "You think I'm easy to control?" I asked, quiet but steady. She laughed. "Relax, we're joking." Her eyes avoided mine. That night we fought, not the usual passive arguments, but real confrontation. "I'm your husband, not your project," I said. "You humiliate me, you talk about me like I'm nothing." "You're too sensitive," she said. "If you had more confidence, you wouldn't feel attacked." Something shifted inside me. Gaslighting, blame shifting, zero accountability. I started noticing everything. Late night texting, sudden secrecy. Her phone always locked, face down, notifications muted. One night I picked it up while she was in the shower. I didn't plan to snoop. I didn't want to be that person. But something told me I already knew the truth. The messages were with someone named Jason. Flirty, explicit, dangerous. "He's nothing like you. You make me feel alive. Can't wait until you're free from that marriage." Photos, voice notes, plans to meet. This wasn't manipulation anymore. This was betrayal. I confronted her that night. "Who is Jason?" I asked, holding up her phone. Her expression didn't show guilt. It showed annoyance. "He's just someone who actually understands me," she said. "Unlike you." "Are you sleeping with him?" She hesitated, a second, long enough to confirm what I already knew. "Yes," she said finally, "and before you freak out, maybe ask yourself why I needed someone else." The audacity stunned me. "You never challenged me," she said. "You never pushed me. You're too comfortable, too predictable. Jason makes me feel powerful." I felt numb. "You humiliated me for years," I said, "and now you're cheating on me?" She shrugged. "Men do it all the time. I thought you'd handle it better." And then I realized something terrifying. She didn't just disrespect me. She didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as something to dominate, replace, discard. That night, I didn't beg, I didn't cry, I didn't threaten divorce, I just listened. And as she spoke, something inside me died. But something else was born, not sadness, not anger, clarity. She thought I was weak. She thought I would stay silent. She thought I would keep tolerating humiliation. She was wrong. And she had no idea what I was about to do next. I didn't confront her again. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten divorce. That's exactly what she expected. Instead, I changed, quietly, completely. The morning after I discovered everything, I woke earlier than usual, made breakfast, kissed her cheek before work, acted like nothing had happened. She watched me with suspicion, waiting for anger, tears, a scene. None came. That silence unnerved her, and that unease became my leverage. I began observing her like a stranger studies a stranger. I noticed patterns I had ignored for years, how she curated her image, how she thrived on validation, how terrified she was of looking weak. Sarah wasn't just cruel. She was addicted to control and perception. I decided to strip both away. First, I became the perfect husband, attentive, calm, supportive, predictable. I stopped reacting to her insults, stopped defending myself. When she mocked me in public, I smiled. When she flirted with men, I acted indifferent. When she criticized everything about me, I agreed. Her power depended on my reaction. Without it, she felt invisible. She tried harder. More insults, sharper sarcasm, public humiliation. I documented everything, screenshots, recordings, dates, patterns, every manipulative word, every affair clue, not for the law. Not for revenge yet, for something far more personal. Then I rebuilt myself. Gym, wardrobe, friends, confidence. I became a version of myself she never believed I could be. People noticed. Colleagues admired my composure. Friends complimented my growth. Women looked at me differently. Sarah noticed too. Her jokes stopped landing. Her tone shifted. Questions she never asked before. Who were you texting? Why are you always busy? I smiled. Relax. You're too sensitive. She hated hearing her own words reflected back. Then I built my stage. Sarah thrived on validation, Instagram, parties, mutual friends. Her reputation was her identity. If she loved the spotlight, I would give it to her, but on my terms. I planned a lavish anniversary party, a renewal of vows. Everyone would see how perfect we were. She posted about it endlessly, bragging to friends that she had fixed me. Behind the scenes, I prepared the truth. A timeline of our life together, her public image versus private reality. Videos of her mocking me, screenshots with Jason, recordings of gaslighting. Witness accounts from friends who had seen her cruelty. No commentary, no insults, just evidence, cold, clean, undeniable. I hired a videographer under the guise of creating a romantic montage. I collected clips from friends, many unknowingly providing proof of her humiliations. I edited it into a documentary-style presentation. Meanwhile, I quietly secured my exit, separated finances, moved critical documents, consulted a lawyer, found an apartment. When everything exploded, I would be untouchable. She thought I was falling back in love. She became more affectionate, protective, jealous of other women around me. She bragged that she had fixed me. She had no idea she was walking onto a stage I had built entirely for her. The night of the party, the room would be perfect. Music, champagne, smiles, speeches, a celebration of love. And then I would press play, not to destroy her life, not to humiliate her for pleasure, but to reclaim my voice, to reclaim my story, to show the world the truth she had spent years denying. She spent years controlling my narrative. I was about to take it back. Control is an illusion. Silence is not weakness. The anniversary party looked perfect from the outside. Golden lights bathed the hall. Soft music floated through the air. Champagne glasses clinked. Laughter and polite chatter filled the space. Friends, family, colleagues, they all believed they were witnessing a flawless celebration of love. Sarah stood beside me in a sleek black dress, her hand resting lightly on my arm like a trophy. She radiated confidence, pride, charm, the perfect wife everyone admired. She had no idea she was stepping onto a stage I had built entirely for her. When it was time for speeches, I took the microphone. The room quieted instantly. Smiles and expectant nods greeted me, everyone anticipating a sentimental tribute. My wife and I have had an interesting journey, I began, voice calm, deliberate, steady. Tonight, I wanted to share a story about honesty, about respect, and about what happens when the truth finally has a voice. Sarah squeezed my hand, whispering, "This is so sweet." I nodded toward the screen. The lights dimmed. The first clips were innocent, college photos, vacations, wedding highlights, laughter, nostalgia. Sarah's eyes sparkled, soaking in admiration. Then the tone shifted. A video from years ago played. Sarah laughing at a party, mocking me to her friends, calling me boring, pathetic, a safe backup. The room fell silent. Next came screenshots, messages with Jason, flirtatious, explicit complaints about me. Secret plans no one had seen. Gasps rippled through the guests. Sarah's hand slipped from my arm. Her smile faltered. Confidence cracked. The montage continued. Audio recordings of insults, video clips showing subtle humiliations, timelines contrasting her public charm with private cruelty. No commentary, no insults, just her own words and actions. I stepped back to the microphone. For years, I believed I was the problem, I said quietly. I thought I deserved the jokes, the insults, the betrayal. Tonight, I realized something. Silence is not consent, and love should never require humiliation. The room was frozen. Her mother covered her mouth. Friends gaped. Some looked at me with pity, others with shock. Sarah's face drained of color. "This is a joke, right?" she whispered. "No," I said. The final clip played, a calm, narrated summary of her emotional abuse, manipulations, and betrayals. It ended with one simple line on the screen. "Respect is not optional." Lights came back on. Silence crushed the room. Guests shuffled uncomfortably. Some left. Whispers spread. Chaos simmered. Sarah stared at the screen, paralyzed. Her carefully curated, polished image had shattered before everyone who mattered to her. She turned to me, voice trembling. "You planned this." "Yes," I replied calmly. "You humiliated me," she said, tears streaking her face. "You taught me how," I said. She opened her mouth, but no words came. For years, she had controlled the narrative, perfect, charming, untouchable. Tonight, that story ended. I addressed the room one last time. "I'm not here to destroy her. I'm here to tell the truth. Pretending everything is perfect is the most toxic lie we tell ourselves." Then I walked off the stage. I didn't look back. Behind me, the party dissolved into chaos. Whispered questions, arguments, stunned relatives. Sarah stood alone in the spotlight she had once loved, powerless for the first time. Later, in the parking lot, she confronted me. "You did this to ruin me," she said. "No," I replied. "I did this so I could stop feeling ruined." She stared at me, really seeing me for the first time, not as someone to control, but as someone who had reclaimed his life. I got into my car and drove away. For the first time in years, I wasn't the quiet husband in her shadow. I was the man who finally told his story, and the echo of that truth was louder than any insult she had ever thrown at me. The days after the party felt unreal. The story spread faster than I could have imagined. Friends called, family messaged. People I barely knew had opinions about my marriage. Some praised me for finally standing up for myself. Others whispered that public humiliation was cruelty disguised as justice. I didn't care. At least that's what I told myself. For the first time in years, I slept without feeling small. I walked into rooms without shrinking. I felt free, like I had finally escaped a cage I hadn't even realized I was living in. Sarah moved out within a week, quietly, methodically, no screaming, no begging. Her confidence, once unshakable, was replaced by something fragile, exhausted, almost invisible. The woman who had dominated every conversation now avoided eye contact, mirrors, everyone. I thought that would be the end. I thought revenge would bring closure. I was wrong. One evening, I returned home to find a plain envelope on my desk, her handwriting neat and precise. Inside were documents, medical records, therapy notes, psychological evaluations. My hands shook as I read. Sarah had been diagnosed years before we met. Severe narcissistic personality disorder, complex childhood trauma, emotional neglect, manipulation, constant humiliation. Her cruelty wasn't random. It was learned, reinforced, carefully buried beneath charm and ambition. A line from her therapist's notes cut deeper than any insult. She fears intimacy. When she feels loved, she sabotages the relationship to regain control. Another, humiliation is her defense mechanism. Belittling others makes her feel safe from being hurt. I sat on the floor, stunned. She had been broken, she had been toxic, she had humiliated me daily. But she had also been fighting her own demons I never saw. At the bottom of the folder was a letter. "I didn't give you this sooner because I didn't want pity to replace anger. I deserved your anger. I didn't deserve your silence. What you did at the party destroyed me, but it also woke me up. I finally saw myself as you saw me. I returned to therapy. I am facing my pain. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know your revenge became my wake-up call." Weeks later, we met for coffee. She was quieter, more grounded, less theatrical. "I'm not here to apologize again," she said. "I'm here to tell the truth. I was toxic. I knew it. I just stayed that way because control felt safer than vulnerability. You leaving forced me to face myself. Then she said something I never expected. You were never weak, you were patient, and I punished you for it. We sat in silence. Then she added, your revenge hurt, but it also saved me from becoming worse, and it saved you from staying. The twist hit me harder than the party ever could. My revenge didn't just destroy her image. It shattered an illusion we both had been living. I realized something painfully clear. Humiliation is a language of pain, not power. Revenge may feel like justice, but it always leaves questions behind. Toxic people are responsible for their behavior, but many are shaped by wounds we never see. Staying silent in abuse isn't kindness, it's self-erasure. I didn't regret standing up for myself. I regretted how long it took. The hardest truth settled in. Sometimes revenge doesn't end the story. Sometimes it starts the healing on both sides. I thought I was the hero of my escape. In reality, I was just a man who finally learned this. Love without respect is not love. Pain without accountability only grows. Silence is never strength.